It's about recognising that you have to keep going, you have to keep trying, you have to keep practising, you have to keep learning.
Welcome to Island Influencers, where we share stories of successful business owners, experienced professionals, entrepreneurs and community leaders based or with influence in the Isle of Man. This podcast is brought to you by Thornton Chartered Financial Planners, because great financial planning has the power to change your life. Now here's your host, Sharon Sutton.
Natasha Brown is the owner and one of the teachers at Swing in the Isle. She describes herself as an Essex girl by birth, admitting money was tight growing up with her twin siblings on a council estate. Natasha met her husband, Craig, thanks to ballroom dancing at Cambridge University. As a former primary school head teacher, she describes herself as a lifelong learner. Natasha knew from a young age she wanted to be a teacher and to make a difference. Learning about swing dance and how Natasha's two passions, teaching and dance, came together was marvellous. Here's an idea. Instead of setting up a new TV subscription, why not set up a swing dance subscription instead? I'll let Natasha Brown persuade you herself in episode 89 of Island Influencers. Welcome to the Island Influencers studio.
Thank you.
Natasha Brown. Thank you so much for braving this cold day and coming out to St. John's. So Natasha, let's hear all about you. Where did you come from? What's your background?
Okay, I'm actually an Essex girl by birth. Mm-hmm. I'm the eldest of three. I have a twin brother and sister.
Right.
And my first home was a flat above a newsagent shop that my parents ran.
Right.
But when my brother and sister came along, living in a two-bedroom flat was no longer feasible. And the council were compulsory purchasing the newsagent shop. So we moved to a brand new council estate in Shoebury-Ness.
In where, sorry?
Shoebury-Ness. It's the end of the Fenchurch Street line.
Right, okay.
That's how most people know it.
Yeah.
It's near Southend-on-Sea in Essex. So that's basically where I grew up. I suppose I took to education and learning, maybe because I was the eldest, but I was supported by my parents and my teachers as a bit of a bookworm to work hard at school.
Were you influenced by any of your teachers? Anyone in particular?
Very definitely. In junior school, as it was then, Key Stage 2, I had a music teacher who basically encouraged my musical ability. I'd picked up a recorder at a jumble sale and started to teach myself to play.
Right.
And she was very supportive, talking to my parents, trying to encourage that musical ability. And I also remember what would now be Year 6 teacher, who was the deputy head, really inspiring me as a learner. And that was kind of what made me decide I wanted to be a teacher, actually.
That's really early to decide that sort of career choice. Yeah.
Yes. And it was quite challenging because I was good at maths. So a lot of my secondary teachers would say to me, why on earth do you want to be a teacher? You know, you're good at maths. You could go and earn lots of money working in London.
Yeah.
But I guess because I grew up on a council estate and I saw a lot of children whose parents didn't encourage them the way my parents had, I decided I wanted to make a difference and to do something that would help and support perhaps other children who didn't have the support and encouragement that I had as a child. So I've actually, as a teacher, always worked in state schools in some more challenging areas of the UK because I wanted to make a difference.
Yeah, sure. That's a very nice story. Yeah, thank you. So,
Thank you.
So, what happened in your career? You went on to university.
I did. I managed to pass my 11 plus and get to grammar school.
Great.
I then went to Cambridge University, and I was studying maths and education. The way they did the teacher training there, you did half of your degree at degree level maths and the other half as teacher training. So it still gave me that option to go in a different direction if I decided.
Wow. Quite challenging stuff.
Yes. And at that point I took up ballroom dancing. So having having played the recorder, the clarinet, the piano as a teenager, I decided I wanted to give dancing a go, and ballroom dancing, it was something my mum had done as a young girl. And that's where I actually met my husband to be. So we both landed on the ballroom dancing university team.
Brilliant.
And took part in lots of competitions.
Yeah, and what was your specialty? What was your forte?
Well, I started off on the Latin team. I spent my first year on the Latin team doing cha-cha and jive. But in the second year, when I was actually dancing with Craig competitively, we were doing modern, so quick step was our competition dance.
Yeah, I always found that really complicated.
Yes.
I went to the Jimmy and Shirley Drug and Dance Studio when I was a kid in Ramsey, like many others of my contemporaries. It's a really fun thing to do.
It is. It's a great skill to have.
Yeah,
it is a great skill to have, and I guess something that I've enjoyed for a huge part of my life.
Yeah, how fabulous! When you came out of Cambridge with a degree and teaching, what happened then? What did you go to do?
Well, we settled to start off with in Cambridge. I was teaching in Cambridge for about 4 years. Then my husband, who was working in finance, his job took us to Reading in Berkshire.
Right.
And I was still teaching at that point. But then the government introduced the numeracy and literacy strategies. And being a mathematician...
The 3 R's.
The 3 R's. I went for a job interview as a primary numeracy consultant, which basically involved training teachers in how to teach maths at both primary and secondary school level. Predominantly, I worked with the primary school teachers, obviously having a primary school background.
Yeah.
But initially I did some work with secondary school teachers as well.
Yeah, and how did you find that?
Interesting. There is a definite difference, I guess, between primary school and secondary school attitudes towards teaching generally.
In what way?
Well, at primary school, you teach everything.
Yes.
Regardless of what your specialism is, and you're expected to teach everything. So in my first year of teaching, I found myself teaching design technology, never actually having had a lesson as a school child, even as a secondary school pupil, because I went to an all-girls school and you didn't do things like that.
No, I'm sure.
So I had to have a very kind of rapid learning curve, shall we say, in how to teach design technology.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So yes, it was good. It was good. One of the things I suppose I enjoy about primary school is that diversity, is that ability to learn across the board.
I'm sure.
I would probably describe myself as a lifelong learner. I think I'm quite passionate.
But left brain and right brain with maths and music and dance.
Well, I was actually born left-handed, but made to write with my right hand.
Oh, really?
So, yes, I was probably one of the last. I had one of my first infant teachers was not far off retirement. I don't really remember it, but my mum tells me that when we moved from Southend to Shoebury, I was suddenly made to write with my right hand. And maybe it's made me a more diverse person.
Yeah. How did you find that playing a musical instrument, though? Did you find that you wanted to put one hand in front of the other?
I do some things a bit cack-handedly. When my sister herself had twins and I was having a go at changing a nappy, she told me I'd change the nappy left-handed, and I didn't know there was such a thing. Well, she's right-handed and her husband is left-handed.
Right, okay.
And apparently he would turn the mat round the other way and lay the baby in a different direction.
Do you know, I've never thought about that. I'm left-handed, and I've actually got no idea which way I change nappies on my son.
No.
He would be horrified if he listened to this, but
It's just a thing.
Fantastic. So after you went on to being a consultant teaching teachers, what did you go on and do after that?
That's when I became a primary school head teacher. At the time, I was the youngest head teacher that Reading had ever had, but that only lasted 18 months. And I reckon it was because I was such a good head teacher.
I was thinking that.
I was actually 33 when I became a head teacher.
Fabulous.
Which is reasonably young.
Yeah, it
reasonably
is.
young. But I'd gone to an interview for a consultant post, and they had basically, because I hadn't been a deputy, I wasn't sure about whether being a head teacher was the right thing for me. At the end of the interview, they basically said, we would welcome you here as a head teacher. So I took them at their word.
Well, but you would have the skills that they wanted for their team to have from you.
Yes, yeah, they
As a
basically,
leader.
the school that I went to weren't achieving terribly well. I mean, it wasn't in special needs or anything like that, but they wanted somebody who had maths and the numeracy and literacy strategy background, basically to help them. And I stayed at that school for 6 years. It's quite nice. The children who started on the same day as me also left on the same day as me. And we went from being towards the bottom of the league table to being about third in the league table. So
That's amazing.
I was quite pleased.
Yeah.
I mean, not that it's all about your test results or anything. I mean, my first year there, I spent every lunchtime and every break time on break duty, because for me the first thing was about relationship with the children and the discipline.
That's all the mischief happens as well.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it was a Reading inner city multicultural school that had a lot of troubled children, a lot of refugees.
Wow.
There were something like 54 different first languages spoken.
How did you even approach? Well, maths is a universal language, I guess.
Absolutely, and a lot of the education around English as a first language is children will pick it up quicker if you speak English to them. So yes, they did have a lot of support in their first language if we could give it to them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always
You'd have
possible.
to go some to get 54 different sources.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And
I mean, when I was at school here, it was very white, and what English was spoken, that was it.
Yes.
And you see today, it's getting more and more multicultural in the island too.
Yes. Yes. The island is still pretty white.
It is.
But yes, there are other nationalities here now.
Yes.
And probably have been historically for a while, but yeah, not quite as diverse, shall we say, as Reading town centre was.
No, I'm sure. Oh, well, that's great. So then you stopped being a primary school head teacher in July 2008, and so what happened then?
Well, my husband had been looking for a new job, a new challenge.
Yes.
And I had accepted that I would see where his job took us. He'd been exploring various avenues and nothing was quite clicking for him.
Yeah.
So I made a decision that I needed to resign myself. As much as I enjoyed being a head teacher, it wasn't really good for my health. And I was getting more and more stressed, more and more ill. Within a few days of my handing in my resignation, he was offered a job interview with a company on the Isle of Man.
Oh, wow.
And he came home one day and he says, what do you think about exploring the Isle of Man? I'm like, well, where is it for a start? Neither of us had ever been here.
Get your atlas out.
Absolutely. He actually knew, being a Lancashire lad, he did know where it was. He'd never been here.
Yeah.
We came on a wet and windy January weekend and basically fell in love with the island. And I think we thought, well, if we can love it on a wet and windy January weekend, we can love it any time of the year.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
The company that he'd got the interview with, they were really good. They put us up in a hotel, but they also gave us a car so we could explore the island and just see
I'm curious
exactly
now where he is.
what we were letting ourselves in for.
Yes.
He's had several jobs.
Yeah.
We've been here, well, it's 14 years, I guess, now.
Yeah.
And haven't really looked back.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. I mean, within 6 months, Craig was saying I could retire here. My family being predominantly still in Essex is more challenging, shall we say, for me, in that this is the furthest I've lived away from them.
Yes.
But part of the deal of us coming to the island was that I would become the dog mum, because Craig had always wanted to get a rescue dog.
Right.
And that would hopefully give me the time to be able to go and visit my family.
Yeah.
And not perhaps be so constrained by school holidays and the like.
Yeah. And did that work out well?
It worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Apart from the fact that our rescue dog would not go into kennels, and my father-in-law basically became our dog sitter. We would go across on the Ben.
Yeah.
in the dog lounge.
Yes.
Stitch would then stay with his granddad while I travelled
Lovely.
to see my family.
So now the reason you're here today is to talk about what you're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
How did that begin?
About 5 years ago, I guess because I had more freedom and more free time, I was exploring having a social life and wanting to get back to dancing. And I had explored finding ballroom dancing lessons on the island. I'd had a go at Rock. I'd tried a bit of salsa and Argentine tango. And a friend who I'd met said he was trying to get a swing dance class going. Would I be interested? So I chatted it over with
Because
Craig.
people say swing and you immediately think something completely different.
Completely different,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Swing dance. We try to say swing dance to
Very
stop
good.
the sniggers.
Doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. I said to Craig, well, should we go along and find out what this is all about? So we did. I think we were captivated by the history and the connection that it had with some of the dancing that we knew,
Yeah.
but also by the freedom that it gave. So, for example, within ballroom dancing, we'd felt, yes, there was a lot of lead and follow, but there was also an element of needing to learn moves and a routine and putting a routine together.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas with swing dance, you can more or less put any move with any other move, so you don't actually need to learn a routine in order to dance with somebody. So that freedom combined with the history and the tradition that it had, it was started in the 1920s, developed in the 1930s and 40s, was revived basically in the 1980s.
So whereabouts in the 1920s did it come from?
It basically came from Harlem in America.
Yeah, I was going to say
So
it strikes me as having
Black African.
black roots. Yeah.
Yes, it does have black roots.
Yeah.
White people took to it quite quickly,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously back in the 1920s it was very much a black culture and a white culture in America.
Yeah.
So it was quite distinct.
Sure.
The name Lindy Hop, so one of the dances that we teach, actually came from the Lindenberg hop across
Yeah.
the Atlantic. There were people dancing the dance and it didn't have a name, and apparently the guy reporting on the event called it the Lindy Hop because of
Yeah.
Lindenberg.
Right.
Very strange. It was the American GIs coming over to the UK that brought Lindy Hop to the UK.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a worldwide dance now. I mean, you can go to swing dance classes in Australia, all throughout Europe. There are festivals all over the world. But yes, it has its roots in black African culture and jazz. That's really where it comes from.
Oh, fabulous. So it started in 2017 by my calculations. So how does it manifest now? How does swing dance Isle of Man look?
Okay, we currently have classes in Ramsey, Douglas and Castletown. My husband and I are the teachers and main organisers.
Oh, awesome.
Awesome, yes. It kind of went well together, teaching and dancing, two passions coming together.
Has he retired now as well?
He is working part-time.
Right, okay.
That only happened 18 months ago.
Okay.
So, yes, initially he was still working full-time. So we were teaching in Ramsey and Douglas initially, and Gordon, the guy that started Swinging the Isle, was still in the Isle of Man, so it was like a three-way split.
He's left now, has he?
He has since left, yeah. That was the point at which Craig and I took it on full-time.
Wow.
But we don't teach all three classes every single week.
I was going to say,
because that would be
a big commitment.
A big commitment.
Yeah.
We have a great network of support now, regular members who are keen to keep...
Have you taught teachers?
Have I taught teachers? Yeah, there are some who are teachers who have been. Yes, they have let on.
Fabulous. Using your skills from a primary school teacher there, huh?
Sometimes adults are far worse than children, I will just say that.
Okay.
Other times they're not. What we do is we run it so that there are 4 weeks of teaching in each venue, and then there are 2 weeks of what we call practice and social. The idea being that my volunteers run those 2 sessions for us so that we don't necessarily have to be there, but because people have had 4 weeks of fairly intensive teaching, they've got lots of moves to practice.
Yeah.
Because there's quite a leap between attending a lesson and feeling like you can do a move or you can do a routine in a lesson, to then being able to do it on your own when you haven't got my voice in a microphone telling you what the steps are.
Yeah, but hopefully you've been suitably brainwashed after 4 weeks, you'd hope. Oh no, she said that. So whereabouts do you meet in Ramsey and Douglas?
So we meet
Castletown?
in St Paul's Church Hall in Ramsey on a Tuesday evening.
All right.
On a Wednesday in Douglas at the Manx Legion.
All right, yeah.
And a Thursday at Morton Hall in Castletown.
So hopefully to the listeners, it should be somewhere close near you that you can
come along and
that's
try
fabulous.
it out.
That's okay. Well, but later we'll put in the show notes where you can find the details and the dates and stuff. But
Brilliant, thank you. That would be marvellous.
No, that's super duper. Thank you. Well, moving on to the next questions that we like to ask in the Ireland Influencers episodes. So if you don't mind me asking, and I primarily ask this in my day job as a financial planner, what was your earliest memories of money? I mean, you've alluded to certain things in your life, and I can imagine all sorts, but why don't you tell us how it really was?
Okay. My impression of money as a child was that it was tight. My parents had twins when I was 5, and they were quite old as parents go. My mum was 36. My dad was, I think, 52 when they were born.
Right, okay.
And within a year of the twins being born, they had both been seriously ill. My dad had had a heart attack,
Oh, gosh.
which was his 3rd out of 5.
Wow.
And my mum had pleurisy, which is like a minor version of TB.
Yeah.
So I joke about having become mummy's little helper. I felt very much that I was there to help my mum with my brother and sister a lot of the time. And I do remember on a Saturday morning, my mum was very, very strict about housework got done on a Saturday morning, and we all had our chores. We were all expected to clean our bedrooms and tidy them and hoover and dust and that sort of thing.
Yes.
And we would then earn our pocket money,
Okay.
which was 10p.
Right.
And we were then sent to the shops with our 10p's to buy sweets, but also to pick up perhaps some potatoes or carrots or apples or whatever it was that mum needed from the greengrocers.
It was quite limited at greengrocers in those days, wasn't it? Do you remember?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, £5 of spuds and £2 of carrots,
Yeah.
please.
What
And
else is in season? Yeah.
they would go in this huge bag that you would then
Yeah.
drag home between you. So yes, money was quite tight. My mum will say in the newsagents that I learnt to give change up to 10 bob,
Yeah.
but I don't actually remember that.
No, but it's no wonder you're good at maths. You can remember the imperial system versus decimalisation, let's face it.
Yes,
Quite
it is
challenging.
quite possible that is where the maths
Yeah.
ability came from. If she was teaching me to give change in a newsagent shop, that could well be.
Well, it starts somewhere, doesn't it? The brain, the way it works.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, fabulous. Well, thank you for answering that. Yeah.
No, you're welcome.
I mean, so of all the things that you've done throughout your life so far, what's given you the most fulfilment, would you say, from a personal and a work perspective, if you don't mind?
No problem. I think representing the university at ballroom dancing and taking part in a Champions of Tomorrow competition at Blackpool would certainly be a highlight.
Yeah.
I think being a funky auntie as well. We don't have children, but I promised myself that nieces and nephews and goddaughters would see me as the funky auntie. I'd be someone who would be approachable, who would always be there for them, and I like to think I have a really good relationship with my nieces and nephews and goddaughters. And I guess being a dog mum, that was quite challenging, actually. I thought, if I can handle a school full of children, surely I can handle one rescue dog.
Well, it depends where he'd come from, I suppose. What's Stitch's background? Can you say?
He came from Ardjeckal.
Right.
And his prior owners, bless them, he was an alcoholic who had fallen off the wagon when he lost his wife.
Oh dear.
So very sad. Stitch had clearly been loved. That there'd been a lot of training that we could see, but obviously losing your wife is quite traumatic for anybody. So for an alcoholic, it's sad. Stitch was fun. He was well loved. He was a complete mummy's boy. But he was hard work. He was hard work. He had a lot of issues, bless him. He had food allergies galore, separation anxiety. So, he took a lot of training.
Yeah. And so is he still with you?
No, sadly we lost him about 18 months ago.
Oh.
Yeah, his time was right.
Sounds like he had a happy rest of his life.
He did. He certainly made the most of it, and he let us know, that he was making the most of it as well.
Yeah. And what about since then? Have you taken on another rescue dog?
No. We're very much having a break from having a rescue dog at the moment. I think I'm just exploring the freedoms that not having a dog now gives me. Certainly being able to visit family a lot more easily.
Yes.
But also the time that I can now give to swing dancing. Swing dancing very much feels like a part-time job for me. I spend a good sort of 15, 20 hours a week, not just planning the lessons and learning the moves in order to teach the moves, but managing all the admin that goes with it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's good fun. It is good fun.
Yes, good. And so for any aspiring business owners, entrepreneurs, what would be your number one tip then?
Number one would definitely be about looking after your team. And that's whether I'm a swing dance teacher or even as a head teacher. Valuing and supporting your team, because they are the people who are putting your vision into practice.
Yeah, your business family.
Yes, very much so. And we do talk about it being a swing family, very definitely. I have made some wonderful friends doing swing dance, and they do very much feel like family.
Yeah.
My other top tip, which surprised me very much, was how much the island lives on Facebook, and where predominantly most of our advertising goes. Probably because what I'm pitching is social life as opposed to work life, and maybe that's where the island goes for its social life. But it did surprise me how quickly the followers clicked into Facebook, and that is still where predominantly most of them go. Even though I have a presence on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, most of my connections come through Facebook.
No, I'd agree. Yeah, we find the same.
Okay.
Yeah, good. And what do you think are the best things about living on the Isle of Man, or living in the Isle of Man, your new home?
My new home, yes. I do love the mix of scenery. I know lots of people, refer to that. We talk about the island being like a mini UK. You can go to Cornwall down at the Sound, and you can enjoy the Highlands of Scotland up on Snaefell, and I love the beach. Growing up in Southend and Shoeburyness, I lived on the beach, and the fact that I can go to so many diverse beaches on the island.
Some of them are even clean.
Yes, no, very clean, clean, and very quiet. Stitch loved the beach, and we would regularly take walks on the beach and see nobody or see very few people. And yet when I go home to Southend and Shoebury and I go for a walk on the beach, I will meet 50 people. It's very different. It still has that calming atmosphere about it. That fresh air that I enjoy about going to the beach, the sound of the waves.
I'm curious though. Do you notice more litter on the beach back in the UK than you do in the Isle of Man? Because you've got the Beach Buddies initiative here. That's
huge.
It's had such an influence on our shores, and now the glens that they're doing.
Yes,
just wondering if it's that sort of thing is noticeable elsewhere.
Certainly I do see rubbish. I wouldn't say it's prevalent on the beaches, no. But this is in the UK when I go home. It's visible. The particular beach that I go to actually is very well stocked with bins, and there is a lot of, put your rubbish in the bin. They have barbecues there that people descend on the weekend. It's really novel. They've got these brick-built barbecues where families just pitch up and have a barbecue on a Saturday or a Sunday.
Brilliant. And they don't get vandalised?
No.
That's
no.
amazing.
And there's this, there's bins there for you to put your rubbish or, take your rubbish away with you.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows, yeah.
Okay, so what challenges would you say the Isle of Man would face?
Okay.
From your own perspective, when you've put quite a lot of research together for me before today, and I read that and I thought, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I guess being married to someone who works in finance, his little pet peeve is the kind of attitude that we're a tax haven.
Yeah.
And that financially we're somehow dodgy, and that's not the case.
Not these days.
Not at all. Not at all. I suppose personally, it's the lifestyle misunderstandings that people have. There's, do you have such and such a shop? Can you still go to the theatre? Do you get to see bands performing? I actually say to people, I actually go to the theatre and go to events far more on the island than I did living in Reading. I suppose being musical and dance orientated, I love the theatre. I love musicals, and I am regularly there.
Yes.
And I'm actually in awe of the quality that we have on the island.
Isn't it amazing?
It's absolutely amazing. Going to a West End show is one of my favourite things to do.
Yeah, mine too.
But I am pretty much at most of the ones that go on at the Villa, and I think it's just awesome. The other frequent thing is people will say to me, oh yes, I know so-and-so on the island, they live in Laxey, Ramsey, and there's an expectation that you're going to know them. And I'm like...
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah, you get that many times. Actually, it's surprising how many times you do.
Well, I kind of saw it as a huge achievement when, we live near Ramsey. I went into Ramsey shopping, as I do every week, and I met somebody I knew. And I'm like, I belong now because I've bumped into somebody I know. It really seriously felt like an achievement.
Yeah, fabulous.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well done. Welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, great. So what solutions and opportunities then would you see if you were in a position to change the island as a tax haven? What would you do?
Oh, I don't know that I'm qualified to comment on that at all. I guess in looking at this question, I went back to my first love of primary school children and maths. And one of my biggest bugbears about that has been how it's not acceptable to say, oh, I'm not very good at reading or I'm not very good at writing. But it is acceptable to say, I'm not very good at maths. And that irritates me. I know historically a lot of it is to do with how we were taught maths. And I passionately believe that a lot of the research that actually went into the numeracy strategy does help children have a better understanding and a better grasp of numbers.
And for natural literacy, if nothing else.
Absolutely.
Which is the world of money which surrounds us like a sea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it is something that everybody uses in their daily life.
Yeah.
Okay, I get the whole argument of, well, when do I ever use algebra? Why do I have to learn geometry? But actually to be able to have a basic understanding of percentages and interest rates and loans and repayments and all those sorts of things that we deal with in our daily life.
Yeah. How do things add up?
Stems from, how confident do I feel at some basic arithmetic and calculations?
No, absolutely. So Junior Achievement do quite a lot of work here with our schools.
They do.
I don't know what they do particularly in primary school, but you've got things like Young Enterprise and what used to be all Young Enterprise, it's Junior Achievement now.
Yes.
But thinking about what have you got planned next other than volunteering to go and sort out primary school
out
maths.
Everybody's maths education. I've walked right into that one.
You have, haven't you? So what have you got? What you got planned next for Swing Isle of Man? Swing dance.
Isle of Man. Yeah. We really want to make sure that swing dance on the island becomes sustainable. One of the things I've been encouraged by some of our members to do is to look at subscription rather than, for most dance on the island, you turn up to a class, you pay your money,
Yes, of course.
you go away again.
Yeah.
And whilst that, is great in terms of, you only pay when you go sort of thing, it makes the stability from my end more challenging because
sure.
I still have everything, all the bills to pay in terms of hall hire, website management, blah, 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 blah.
Yes, of course.
Sometimes it would be nice to earn a little bit of money for myself.
Just cover your expenses if nothing else.
Absolutely. Like fuel. Fuel has become a big issue, particularly when you're driving from Ramsey to Castletown.
Yes, indeed.
It's a 50-mile round trip.
Yeah, it is.
Which, takes up quite a bit of fuel. So we're encouraging our more committed members to consider taking out a subscription. And we are offering more videos with kind of technique and tuition that are then available to those members exclusively. I used to publish all our videos for free on Facebook and people can access them. But we've decided actually if we're giving people technique tips, then maybe we need to make that a bit more exclusive to those who
everything's on subscription
commit.
These days, in any case, isn't it?
Yes.
You can set
definitely.
up an Apple TV subscription. Why not a swing
Why
dance?
not a swing dance one? Yeah.
Oh, okay. That sounds interesting. We look forward to seeing how that goes. And so, are there any books that you've read recently that you'd?
I am quite an avid reader in my free time. I've come to terms with the Kindle and found the joys of a Kindle as opposed to a book.
Yeah, it's much more easier to put in your luggage, isn't it?
Absolutely, a lot lighter usually, depending
Yes.
on the thickness of the book that you're reading. I tend to enjoy fiction, escapism.
Yeah.
I have quite a broad taste in terms of the genres that I'll give a go. I actually belong to a book club as well.
Oh, do you?
One of the books I've read recently that I may well use as my choice next time my choice comes around is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. A young girl, Nora, is given the chance to undo her regrets and try out other lives that she might have led.
Gosh.
So
Sounds like a
that,
time machine.
Yeah, that kind of conundrum of, if she could undo certain things and she sees the impact of those changes, would she have chosen a different life or a different way to live? And it's quite thought-provoking as a book,
I'm sure.
actually.
Yeah.
A bit different to something I would perhaps normally pick up, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And anything you're reading at the moment from the book club? Or don't you like it?
We're doing we're due to meet on Wednesday actually. I finished the book a couple of weeks ago, and it was a book about I can't even remember its name now, but it involved the Second World War and what happened between Russia and Norway and Sweden and Finland.
Interesting. It wasn't the 100-year-old man, was it?
No, it wasn't that. But it was all to do with Soviet influence within Norway and Sweden and spies and that sort of thriller type
that
stuff.
sounds good.
So yes, it was a good read. Shame I can't remember what it was called for you. Maybe I'll send it to you. Go home and check.
We'll stick it in the show notes. Yeah, it sounds good. And so, who inspires you then, Natasha?
Anyone who works hard, tries hard, wants to overcome something. I thought long and hard about, are there, big people out there that have influenced me? But no, actually, it's about anyone who says, I'm determined to learn to do something, or I want to change this, I want to do something better. And that doesn't necessarily come easy to any of us. Some of us are gifted and talented in certain areas of our life. And I guess I see it particularly in the dancing. I say to people, it's not about getting the steps right necessarily. It's about having fun, enjoying yourself. But it's also about recognising that you have to keep going, you have to keep trying, you have to keep practising, you have to keep learning. So, I admire anyone who is just determined to do something, whatever that might be.
Quite right. Thank you. And do you have a favourite quote?
You can't control or prevent some situations, but you can choose how you view them.
Very true.
That's something that I've struggled with a lot because I suppose as a teacher, I always felt like if I did all the planning and I tried to work out all the eventualities, that there would be an element of control. There would be an element of this is what is going to happen. But life isn't like that, and it's very easy to then criticize yourself about something that's gone wrong, rather than actually saying, well, okay, I couldn't control that person's reaction or how they viewed what I did. That wasn't my intention necessarily. But I can actually reflect on, well, okay, maybe that wasn't ideal, but I need to move on, or I need to not dwell on that, and I need to do this instead.
Yeah.
Hey ho.
That's a good one. So where can people go to learn all about you and the work that you're doing? I guess we'll have some links. Which is the best way? Facebook, do you say?
Facebook or our website, and our email. They're the three main ways that people contact me.
Fine. We'll put those facebook.com swing in the aisle. I'll put those links in the show notes. But,
that would be brilliant.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Natasha, for coming along today. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
It's been a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for
having me.
No, not at all. It's been great to learn all about what you've been up to and the Swing Dance Isle of Man organisation, and best wishes for your future success.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Island Influencers is a fortnightly podcast. Make sure you don't miss the next episode by clicking the follow button on your podcast platform. A big thanks to the producer and editor of this episode, Catherine Watts and James Spooner at Bear Content. And thank you for listening.